The name Kids College, I guess, just sort of evolved because as we were going through this process sort of reinventing our instructional model, we realized that a lot of the things we were asking the students to do were skills that make people successful in a college type of a setting, as well as in life in general. Those things are managing your time wisely, managing your materials wisely, choosing whether or not you need to go and seek help, choosing whether or not you need additional resources for something that you're trying to learn about, sifting through those resources when you find them, organizing your time and your day in a way that you can accomplish the things you want and need to accomplish and still meet deadlines in a timely manner, becoming more independent, solving problems for yourself if they arise, advocating for yourself if the need arises. So as we took a look at some of the things that we were asking students to do and ways that we were asking them to become more independent, I guess the name just sort of evolved and it kind of stuck.
I have wanted to work with an independent learning model for a long time. I think way back in the whole language days of the 90s, always trying to find something that would work, that would give the kids more independence and responsibility. Just never was able to pull it off, I guess. Last summer when my colleagues and I went to David Langford's seminar in Holman here, the independent learning model that he presented just clicked. It just seemed like it was the right thing for us to do. There was enough structure to it that we could support the kids. At the same time, we could let them move in their learning or stay in the same place in their learning. And it just seemed that this would finally be the model that would help us achieve this ability to let kids move on at their own pace. Probably the biggest reason that we wanted to go to an independent learning model was to provide the differentiation that we really felt kids needed.
There are a couple things that really defined our Kids College this year. The first one was that quality was rigid and time was flexible. The students were expected to do quality learning and to show their learning through quality products, and the time they needed to do that was their own. And that's a very significant shift from what I have done in the past with my teaching, in which I designed a 2-day lesson or a 1-week unit or a 3-week unit and expected that the students would learn the material and show their learning, demonstrate their learning in a certain period of time. This kind of turned that on its head and gave the students the opportunity to learn it in the time they needed, but the quality of learning needed to be very high, and their quality of their product they produced to show their learning also was expected to be very high. The second thing that really defined Kids College was the self-pace. The students themselves decided, how long do I need to spend to learn this particular expectation? A third thing that really defined Kids College this year was that the students themselves chose resources and chose learning methods to help them learn the material, and they were in charge of deciding, how am I going to learn this? I know this is an expectation. Am I going to watch a video about it? Do I need to ask some friends to help mentor me? Can I do a worksheet on it? Should I read about it? Would writing about it help? So those kinds of things, those kinds of choices and ways to learn things were choices that the students were making on a daily basis.
So the experiences of Kids College at Viking this year were pretty exciting. The teachers just wholeheartedly embraced this concept and started last summer spending a lot of hours planning on what could this look like for the kids and for the class in general. Throughout the year there were a lot of challenges, there were a lot of great celebrations.
What you're going to see in the rest of the video is sort of the brass tacks of what Kids College looked like through the year. Some of the things that you'll see probably look fairly traditional, and then other things, ways that we ran things this year, were a significant shift in thinking and doing, both on our part and on the part of the students.
We have something called Matrix Workshop. A matrix is something like it's basically a piece of paper with lots of skills on it. Then you look at the matrix and choose what skills you need to work on. You write it on the little boxes in your daily planner, and you write like the skill, how you're gonna do it, and you explain about it.
Hi, I'm Ben, and this is how the matrix works, I guess. Okay, right here on this side of the matrix, it has a topic like reading, comprehension, reading, decoding, and these little lines are like which boxes they're in, like how many of these fall into that category, like language arts and stuff like that. And like everything is marked like R1 or R2 or R3. The R is for reading, and then you just number them down. But when you get into the language arts, there's like LA1, LA2, and just keeps going. Right here is where like what it is, what you're trying to get signed off is like when you prove what you've learned, what you're trying to get signed off. And the bolded letters are what you can write, and like if you're planning it out, you write down the code and then you write down the bold letters. Over here in this column, it has a space for every matrix expectation, and you write down what days you've worked on it. Now I've kind of forgot to do that for a long time, but I'll do that later. So you gotta like write down what days you've worked on it and like how long you've worked on it. That way you know that you're not spending too much time on it. Over here is the level of learning that you're at. So you have to have it at knowledge to get signed off, but first there's information. I've heard about it. If you have like the LPM grades, this is kind of what it is. This would be the LPM plus. Introduction, I've heard of it. Information, I can do it with help. And knowledge, I can do it by myself. That's what you need to add to get signed off. And wisdom, I can teach somebody. It's if you're like, you can actually teach somebody, I guess. Now you can see right here what I've marked myself at. First you pre-assess yourself, and it says what, and you put down, like you shade how many boxes you think. You put down what you think that you're at right now at this time. And then as we go through, like you pre-assess yourself every month or so, I guess, if you want to. And you mark that in green. You like go through and say, have I relearned any of this? Have I gotten better? And you put that in green because green's like grass growth, I guess. So, like that. And then you go all the way. There's a lot of the matrix, actually. And so then right here is what you gotta write down. You've got to write this down, and it says what you've done to prove that you know it, like an assessment sheet. There are these sheets of paper that you have to like take a little quiz to get it signed off, or have a running record. My handwriting's really sloppy, so you probably can't read it, but that's what it says. Like the teacher listens to me while I read, and it's just stuff that I have to do to get that certain thing signed off right after the time. And then the teacher's initials. Right here, here's my teacher's initials. They're for your teacher knows that you've got them like all like you can do it, and she writes your name on there, her initials on there, so that way when you're done, if you have initials on every single box in this whole thing, you have got the matrix done, and then you can move on to the next one. Like it goes from matrix 1 all the way up to matrix 7, which we're on right now, and that's pretty much it.
Hi, I'm Sharon. This is the 6th and 5th grade matrix, and I'm going to tell you how to use it. So first of all, you write your name, and you write the date you started. And today is May 28th. Okay, so then the first day, you'll go and have your parent sign it, and you'll take this matrix home. Then you'll self-assess that night or that day, depending on how much time you have. So an idea tree is R1. I have no idea what an idea tree is, so I'm not going to put anything on it. Main ideas and details, I've heard about it, and I also can do it with a little bit of help. So I'm going to mark it to the informations, which means you can kind of do it, but you still can't all by yourself. Self-corrector, decoding mistakes on grade level textbook reading. That I can do up to full knowledge. So in order to do that, I can take a running record, I think. So now I move on to the next one. Identify, describe, and use personification. I don't know much about personification, but I have heard about it.
One of the things that we really struggled with in the beginning of the year was what were the matrices going to look like and how did we get started with them. And so this is kind of the process that we went through. The first thing that we did was we got out our chart, our curriculum chart, and we printed that off. We enlarged the expectations and printed it off, and that's what you're looking at right here. These are all of the expectations. They're all cut out and they're laid open on the table so that we could really kind of categorize them into units, into groups that made sense, like in content, and then also with like language arts and reading, science and social studies and health, all those things. So we cut them out and we started grouping them, like there's a history, and those are all the expectations. From there, then we take them and decide, okay, what do we want to do? What kinds of things need to go on matrix number 1? How long do we want that matrix to be? And what kinds of expectations from all of the different curricular areas do we want to have on there? And from that, we develop the matrices. They look something like this, and I think in other parts of the video you've seen them, but they have all curricular expectations on them in all areas, and we've tried to make sure that they make sense together and that they are sort of coordinated so that the things that kids are learning about in science and health match up really well with the things that they're learning about in ILA, in language arts, and in reading, and those sorts of things. It's a fairly long process as we first start it. I think as we get better at it, I think it'll probably go a little faster, but right now that is something that does take quite a bit of time, but once it's done, the kids know all of the expectations, the parents know all the expectations, and it's easy for us to think about the things that the students know and the things that they still need to learn.
This is how to use a flowchart. This is a flowchart, and if you want to find out what you're using the flowchart for, then you look at the title, which is on the top. This flowchart is used for morning jobs. When a flowchart starts, it starts at the oval, which is usually on the top of the paper. And the arrows are going to show you which box to go to next. If it's in a box, it means you do whatever it says in the box. But if it's in a diamond, it means you have a decision to make. So do I need a drink or use the river? I don't have to do that, so you follow the arrow that says no. If it's a decision, it's going to have 2 arrows coming out of it, one that says no and one that says yes. So let's say I did these 2 boxes, said what's in these 2 boxes, and now you go over here. So do I have homework to handle? Well, let's say you say yes to a decision box. Then you'd follow a yes arrow down, and I'd hand it into the stack tree. So say I handed it in, and then I'd follow the arrow back to the main parts of the flowchart.
What's the purpose of a flowchart? The main purpose of the flowchart tells each step how to do the project in order. And how does it help? Does it help?
Yes, it helps because instead of asking your friends, what should I do, what should I do, then you can just look at the flow chart and see what to do.
I finished self-assessing my 6th matrix, and now I'm ready to start working. So I will go and grab the flow chart, and I will start working on it. As you can see, every time I did a step, I crossed it out. I circled things that I needed to work on, and all of the codes to mark the dates that I worked on those. So the first and the last step always has the circle though. So.
We really looked at resources different this year. In the past, we've had basically teacher resources and student resources, but why not put the teacher resources into the hands of the kids so that they can learn the material that they need to learn? What we put together is some resource bins, and basically in the resource bin, all of the teachers collaborated with all the materials that they had, and so we pulled what we thought would be best. Also, we have assessments that when kids feel that they are totally ready, they know the skill, then they can move on to take an assessment. Obviously, not all assessments can be paper and pencil. Sometimes it might be a demonstration as well, or a conversation with that student. Textbooks as well. In the past, students, I don't think they were really aware of how well that they could actually use a textbook to learn. They get excited when they find information from using textbooks. You know, when they're learning about the circulatory system, they look in the health book and they think, wow, look at all this information. Can I take this home? And that's great. That's what we want them to see. They're using text structures so that they can find the information that they need, read about it, and learn about it.
Hi, I'm John, and this is the resources. If I was done with my red blood cell story, maybe I didn't have main ideas signed off, so I would go into the folder of main ideas, and there's practice 1, 2, 3, practice 4, and 5. So if I didn't do any of them, I would start with 1, so I'd take practice 1, and then I would do that one, and then if I still didn't get it, I would keep going until I got that, and then meet with Miss Scuba and try to get it signed off, and then that's what you do.
Hi, I'm Megan. And like when after say you did like a practice sheet for syllables, and then you don't know if you got them right, so you would go back and you will like find the syllables, what it is, and then like you can check your answers. This is cause and effect, but like there's different things. That's for matrix number 5, and then for matrix number 6 there's answer keys right here, and it has reading, language, arts, science, social studies, and health in it. And like it just tells you like the answer, so then so when you turn it in, Miss Scooby doesn't have to waste her time correcting them. You can just come and look at this, and then if you got it right and you know about it, then you can go take the assessment. But if you got like some problems wrong, then you'll have to go back and learn about it some more, and then if you feel ready, some people take the assessment without taking a practice, but I always say after you learn about it first, you should take the practice. Then again, to make sure you know it for sure. There's a resource and portfolio evidence thing that tells you, like let's say you wanted to look at R3. R3 is self-correct, and so it talks about how you can learn about it. And then there's portfolio evidence. The portfolio evidence is what you would write under this portfolio evidence box. And then you can learn by the ways, like you can do timed reading.
David Lampern gave us the idea of videotaping lessons instead of doing them over and over and over again for those students who are absent or those students who need to watch it again and again if needed. So we put in a grant to the PTO, and they're gracious enough to give us money to purchase a DVD camcorder, which we're using right now, and also the other technology that we needed to make this work. And so throughout the year we have videotaped a few lessons, and kids have benefited from watching them if they're gone or rewatching them to review the skill again. We hope to do more more of that next year. Also, we hope to have the kids, have them videotape them as well, so that they can, once they become a mentor, teach others as well.
This is like these little videos we make whenever we want to like watch a video about something. So what you do is if you want to play a video, you take one of these videos. So you want to learn about R3, reread to fix up comprehension, and R7 context clues. You take this little video, and you take this.
Last and first.
Okay. Then you have this little DVD player. That's why that looks really cool. What you do is you plug it in. Sort of works like a CD player. You find some way to get this open, and then once you do that, you take the little CD thing and you put it right in here, kind of like a CD player. You shut it and you press the power, and it clicks select. I'm pretty sure, and then it starts playing.
In March, I had a formal observation with one of the 5th grade teachers and went into the classroom with my laptop like I do with any observation. And after about 2 minutes, I decided that Sue wasn't the person that I really wanted to observe. I could easily see within 2 minutes in the classroom that Sue was a great facilitator of student learning. So instead, I went over and started talking to kids. And I simply asked kids, tell me a little bit about the Matrix. Tell me a little bit about Kids College. And I talked to almost every single kid in that class. And every one of them talked about not just what they were learning, but talked about how they were learning. And to me, that was the biggest difference that I've seen in the students and in their growth this year, was they could tell me the resources that they were using. They could tell me how they were helping one another learn and being peer mentors to one another. They were talking not about the details of facts, but about the learning process and how they best learn, how they are able to show their learning. It wasn't just one assessment, one blanket assessment that all the kids were expected to follow. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, and they had multiple ways to show their competency in any of the standards or any of the knowledge. And afterwards, when I was talking to Sue, I was telling her a couple stories of one of the students who was telling me details about an atlas. Not the details of what was in the atlas, but the details of how to use an atlas. And later as we talked, and she figured out which student it was one of the special education students. I would have had no idea. In that classroom, and it's an inclusion classroom, I would have had no idea who the special education students were and weren't.
Hi, I'm Haley, and this is a poster called Ways to Get Help. So you don't always have to rely on the teacher in case you need help. And the first thing to do is think deeply about your question and decide if you really need help or not, or if you already know the answer, but you just have to think about it. And then the second thing is use resources in case you need some help, but you can't totally use your head. You can find a book or something that you might need to research your topic a little bit so you can learn about it. And the third thing is talk with your friends about the question. They might know a little bit more than you do, even if they're not mentors, because they might be working on the same topic as you. And the fourth thing is ask mentors or other students, because mentors are people who got signed off on the thing, and they know just as much about it as the teacher does. So you can ask them, because they'll probably know about it. And then the fifth thing is finally ask the teacher, because the teacher will definitely know the answer, and if they're not busy, they might be able to work it out for you. And then the sixth thing is if the teacher doesn't know, go with him or her to find resources. And if you might not know where some really good resources that will probably have the answer and your teacher doesn't know, then you could go out to the library or anywhere and try to find resources on that topic, because then you both can maybe know it. And that's the chart.
Explain what a mentor is.
Well, it's basically somebody that helps a person that needs help on the matrix or in math class. And they just help the person understand it and do the work, but they don't give them answers.
What is their job? What is a mentor's job in the classroom?
Their job is to help the person that needs help and help out their teacher. So not all the time can a teacher come to somebody else and help them. So he needs like somebody in the class to help him.
The mentoring program has been really beneficial for a lot of our students in our classroom. The mentors get the opportunity to exceed their expectations and gain a deeper level of knowledge by explaining to the students what they've learned and how to accomplish the goals. And we're allowed to reach more students. As a teacher in your classroom, you can only reach 1 to 2 students in a small amount of time, but with the mentors you're able to help more students stay on task, therefore utilizing your time much better, and the students feel very comfortable going to a mentor and asking a question and receiving help, and they love getting the compliments, the relationship building that takes place when you have a mentor and a mentee program set up in your classroom.
One of the other exciting things that I noticed was the level of responsibility that the students were taking for not just their own learning, but their own behavior. They wanted to share with me the blue folder, the mentor folder, about once they showed responsibility, they were able to have more freedoms. They were able to walk to classes on their own and do some of those things, and they were so excited about the opportunity to show their responsibility. Instead of in, I think, our traditional schooling, we expect that students can't handle those responsibilities instead of giving them the opportunities to show that they are responsible. So they were really proud of that.
What did you really like about Kids College?
I liked how it was independent. You could choose your own pace and what you wanted to do. Like with the teacher-led way, you just take one class, you wouldn't know what it would be, and you take an assessment right away. Like you might want to learn more about it before you take an assessment. That's what you can do with this way. I like it like this.
The thing I liked best about the Matrix was learning things and being in control of what I learned and how.
I like the Matrix because you could make your own choices in it. Is like if you couldn't do one thing, and like if you didn't have the Matrix and you couldn't do one thing, you'd normally just sit at your desk and get bored, and sometimes you goof around and get in trouble. But with this, you can pull out something and do that, and you can get that checked off, and you just get even more and more farther to get done. And it was just really easy.
I like the workshops, and I like mentors.
The thing I like most about the Matrix is being able to mentor my friends and being able to have my friends mentor me.
What I liked about our matrices is that we got to have our own independence, and the teacher wasn't always telling us what to do, and we could get checked off on what we needed to get checked off when we wanted to. And if we didn't want to do something, we could always do something else.
It's good because it's also making us ready for middle school.
The only thing that I didn't like was at the beginning where everybody was like, didn't know what to do and all that kind of stuff. But I really liked that we all got to be really independent workers.
What you liked best about Kids College this year and what you didn't like about it?
I liked that we can work until we know something in Kids College.
And what didn't you like this year?
And I didn't like that we had to take a bunch of assessments.
What I liked was having mentors, and what I really didn't like is some of the things were really hard, and like you had to go back and learn it, and it was kind of hard to go back.
Well, sometimes you don't know what to do, and so the teacher can't really tell you. And like you have to get sheets, and sometimes it doesn't say what it's for, and you have to find out what it is for on the Matrix.
It was really hard to organize when you had to get a whole bunch of different sheets for a different section, and then you got to keep them all in one spot. But then when you look at one, it just falls all over, and there's like 7 matrices, and you got to keep working on it. If you don't work on them, and you get in big trouble.
I asked the students at the end of the year some questions. I gathered the 5th grade students together, and I asked them a couple questions, and I asked them about Kids College, about the differences in their learning and what they liked and didn't like about this year. And the things that they kept saying were, it was harder. They were asked to think more. They were asked to do more. At times it got boring because it was all on their shoulders. But when they talked about their learning, one of the students said, there's no way that one teacher could have taught us all of this. We had to learn it ourselves. And they were so proud of the learning that they were able to do because of this model.
We really had to change our thinking this year. In the past, students have really relied on the teacher as the sole resource. We had to teach kids how to be independent, how to use resources, how to manage their time, how to self-assess. And we had to develop all of these resources and matrices as we went, which was time-consuming. We had thought about, prior to this year, in the summer, thinking about, well gosh, what if we took this year to plan for this? But there's no way that we could have accomplished what we accomplished if we had done that.
No, because a lot of the things that we learned this year were learned through the process of going through the process, and they weren't things that even came into our minds when we were first thinking about it, but because of problems that arose or because of areas where we saw, oh, hey, if we did this, that could happen. A lot of the things that we ended up with that were successful were as a result of the students and us problem solving out how to make things better, and I don't think that could have happened if we would have just been taking the time sitting alone by ourselves, kind of thinking through how to set the system up.
Basically, our focus changed from preparing for lessons, spending all those hours preparing for a math lesson, reading lesson, all of those different lessons, and instead looking at what resource we have and putting those resources together and getting all those resources ready for kids to use, and really looking at what each kid individually needed to be successful.
And our time in the classroom was spent differently too, rather than racing from one lesson to another lesson to another lesson. We had many more opportunities to meet with students in either small groups or one-on-one, and help them think about particularly whatever it was that they were learning at that moment, to provide sort of on-the-spot opportunities for instruction and help, rather than as a whole group thing. And then our lessons were more workshop-based and were based on student need, where we saw a need or where the students requested a workshop because they were having a hard time with some particular lesson. And so we focused our lessons as workshops around exactly what the students needed at the time. And those students who needed it came to the workshop, and those students who didn't continued to work on their matrix expectations, the ones that they were working on.
So one really cool thing that I liked about the matrix system was I felt like it sort of exposed some things that were missing in students' knowledge and skill sets that I took for granted, and I feel like my colleagues had also taken for granted that they would have by the time they got to 4th or 5th grade. So that was all kind of small little bits of learning that really, I feel like, filled in some critical gaps, because we saw those gaps and then we could help kids make a change.
One area that I really felt successful in was the office hours, where we had the opportunity to meet with our students, to show the progress that they've achieved, to check off on skills that they've showed a level of expectation on, answer questions, just to have a nice conversation with them, to ask deeper level questions. Okay, you show me that you're here right now, let me ask you a couple questions about it. And sometimes they can verbalize to you that they do have a good level of understanding, and sometimes based upon our questions, you also ask them to do a little more, or to rethink, or to express their knowledge in another way, because they weren't exactly getting the point that you thought they were getting. The office hours are great to see if they need to work with a mentor, to gauge their progress, to set new goals. One thing that I really enjoyed about the office hours is they'd come to me, they'd come to the meeting, and they'd be prepared, and they'd be able to lay out their work and be able to say, good, you're doing great on that. It was just a nice one-on-one time to give them some feedback.
So in a traditional education system, an English language learner comes to school with really 2 jobs to do. They have to learn English, and at the same time they need to keep up with the academic content. And that, in my experience, can cause kids to fall behind and be in a disadvantage in trying to do 2 things while everybody else is just doing one and keeping pace. So with this new system, I really feel like it's designed well to accommodate some of that, in that it slows down for what they need. It's more suited to the individual learner's pace. So they can get the English and they can get the academic content on their own time. The other thing that's really nice about it is, as a specialist, for me and for my students, it's hard for us to find time in a traditional schedule to meet and to offer services to those students. And with this new the new matrix system, it's just designed a lot better in terms of integrating my services with what's going on in the classroom. So I'm facilitating that English learning right in conjunction with the academic learning, and I'm there all of the time, instead of just having a half an hour designated for my time with a student in a day. For example, this year I had almost 2 hours every day with the majority of students who really needed targeted ESL assistance. So it's really fabulous in that way.
Special ed students have special needs and they learn in different ways. Some are able to follow the skills on the matrix, some require extra learning and a slower pace. Some need different ways of learning and different methods for learning. Some of the students this past year were able to follow the skills and do the work as the matrix progressed along throughout the year. And some need direct instruction, a more structured way of doing their reading and language and writing. Over the year, they progressed and they had modifications for the work that they did. Some of the skills were taken from the metrics and just given to them at a different level, but all progressed and were able to complete most of the skills on the matrix.
Well, through this whole process this year, something that has come back to me time and time again is what an incredible place I work in and what incredible teammates that I have. There were just 2 of us last summer that went to the conference from David Langford, and we came away so fired up and so excited about it and so wanting to jump on board. We went to our teammates and they were right like this with us, completely, fully supporting and jumping in with us and ready to do whatever they could to make this work. And that was huge. Not only with our direct grade level teammates, but we had incredible support from our support staff, our ESL person, our special education person, our EAs were incredible and so willing to work with us, and that's crucial. We couldn't have done this without the support of all those people. But I think that the team aspect completely made this happen. At another level, our administrator in our building was phenomenal in providing support and understanding and doing whatever she could to help us pull this off, as was our district level. We had full support of every level of administrators, whether it was allowing us to make some mistakes, to providing resources for us, making doors open so that we could meet with David Langford alone sometimes. It was amazing, and this was a big thing for us, but we had such full support of each other and of others, and that's why it happened.
One thing I'd like to see changed for next year, or that I'd like to change, is I'd like to make more resources available to students that accommodate every level of learning. This year I feel like we did a really good job of getting started, having a large collection of resources for students and practice sheets. But the truth of it is, we know in a 5th or 4th grade classroom there's a wide range of what students come to us knowing how to do. And we really need to have something to get students started who are really starting from scratch with their learning, and to slowly scaffold them up to sort of a more grade level learning and practice, and then eventually hopefully some challenge activities too for kids who are ready to move beyond grade level expectations.
One area we'd really like to improve on next year is using more flowcharts in our classroom. Creating the flowchart as a class will be very beneficial. It really helps the students understand the steps to accomplish the project or a goal. And with using the flowcharts, it really developed an atmosphere where the students felt comfortable asking more questions or following the steps from one progression to the next to create a map for them of what I need to do, where I am, where I'm going, what have I accomplished, And it felt really good for my students to have the flow chart for when they were done with their work, they could put away their materials, and the next day when it was time to start the task again, they could simply pull out the flow chart, look at the step they crossed off last, and start right away. And I thought it was a great skill for them to, stay on task and be more efficient with their time. Was a huge benefit of the flow charts.
One thing for next year that we really want to focus on is making sure that all of our matrices and all of our resources are available for students who are moving at a very quick pace. Because this was our first year, there were times that we were kind of rushing at the last minute to get resources together and to complete the writing of the matrices. In order for those students whose pace is quicker, they were ready to go and we weren't ready to go. And so one of the things that we want to do better for this year is we're working in the summer to try to have those things all set up so that we are always ahead of whoever our fastest learner is.
And if you had your choice, would you continue Kids College or would go back to the teacher-led way?
I would continue because you really just get to do whatever instead of just following a schedule every day and taking tests and stuff. It's just easier.
If you had a choice, Savannah, would you choose to continue learning in the matrix way, or would you choose to go back to regular kinds of instruction?
I'd keep doing the matrix way.
If I had a choice to do it this way or the old way, I would pick this way. And what made learning...
Why would you pick it this way?
Because we get to learn until we know something.
Would you continue using the matrix next year if you had the choice?
No.
I would choose to keep on learning with matrix. I'd stay like this.
If I have a choice, I'll keep doing Kids College because it's very fun, and I hope you enjoy Kids College too.
Do I get do-overs if I really mess up badly? Yeah. Okay.
I need up stop. Hi, I'm Amanda, and I
could move a lot faster. They needed to learn it, but they could. I'm stuttering and stammering, so let's. All right.
What should we have done instead?
And there's a lot of things in here that may be a little bit hard to figure out. So you can ask a teacher to help you.
To do this, we just felt it was important that all of us had the same vision. Oh, stop. See, here we
We had to change our thinking this year.
Just kidding.
What's the purpose of a flowchart? The main purpose of the flowchart tells each step how to do the project in order. And how does it help? Does it help?
Yes, it helps because instead of asking your friends, what should I do, you can just look at the flowchart and see what to do. What's the purpose of a flowchart?
The main purpose of the flowchart is... Oh, I forgot it.
What's the main purpose of a flowchart?
The main part of the flowchart is it tells each step how to do the project in order. And does it help?
Yes, it helps because then you don't have to be asking your friend, what do I do? You can just look at the